If Ziba had been a different kind of lady, Kamal may have sensed something was up. A crushing sensation, or at the very least, a few hairs standing on edge. But she left him no indication that she would be anything else than she's been for the previous 2 decades. She used to be a quiet villager, a kind wife, and a loving mother. She made no attempt to attract attention to herself. But nothing would ever be the same again. Ziba was discovered in the courtyard with a hatchet in her hand and her husband's torn body nearby in the gruesome scene of a murder. 3 of her 4 small children, as well as neighbors, discover her bloodied. This tragic incident serves as the foundation for the whole book, which moves backward in time to disclose Ziba's tale and forward in time to show how Ziba's lawyer, Yusuf, tries to fight for her in a society that refuses to listen to a woman. A House Without Windows, by Nadia Hashimi, is another masterpiece about life in Afghanistan. But people who read will find nothing to celebrate in such a gloomy portrait of Afghani society. The story's central subject is a tragic one, the destiny of women and girls in a patriarchal society. Much has been documented about that Afghanistan's treatment of even the most poorest residents, that's often unfriendly. Hashimi, on the other hand, has created a fictitious story about one lady to illustrate the ups and downs that the whole female population of the nation experiences. Hashimi was born in Queens, New York, on December 12, 1977, to an Afghan parents. In the early 1970s, her parents moved to the United States. After a few years, her parents planned to return to Afghanistan, but Afghanistan became dangerous as a result of the Soviet invasion. They stayed in New York and started their own business. Do you recall Hashimi's family being in the same position as the characters in a tale in which we learned about in one of the earlier videos? Yes, the kite runner. If you haven't seen the video yet, watch it in link below. Returning to this novel. Contrary to popular belief, the story is not entirely depressing. There is plenty to be grieved by in the book, but there is also much to embrace with happiness. Ziba, a lady who kills her husband in the opening chapter, is at the center of the story. The novel begins with action, leaving readers to ponder why she did what she did and whether or not they should blame her. All we know is that in Afghanistan, women are presumed guilty unless proved innocent, which is rare. After her husband Kamal was discovered brutally killed with a hatchet in the courtyard, Ziba was arrested for murder. Ziba is almost unconscious from shock and unable to account for her location. Her children claim it was not their mother's fault. Kamal's family intends she committed it and they are seeking justice. Ziba ends herself in a women's jail awaiting trial after barely escaping a furious mob. She encounters a bunch of female ladies who have all ended up in the same depressing cells. Nafisa, an 18-year-old girl who was discovered sharing a meal with an adolescent male, was imprisoned to shield her from her father's demand for honor killing. Latifa, a 25-year-old adolescent runaway with a leather jacket, was arrested for loitering but has remained in jail because it provides a safer environment than the outside world. 20 years Meskin is pregnant with her boyfriend and is seeking a court order forcing him to marry her. All of the younger ladies' question is, Ziba is a cold-blooded murderer? Her husband deserved his fate, or if she has been imprisoned for violating some social norm without actually violating a law. For them, jail is a savior, as well as a punishment. The sisterhood they create within is as vibrant and surprising as the harsh and merciless world outside. While Ziba and the other women in the prison fight against patriarchal standards, Yusuf felt certain traditions need to be altered. Yusuf, an Afghani lawyer who has spent his whole life in the United States, is pulled back to his country out of a feeling of responsibility. But he's also looking for something else, a feeling of belonging, an investigation into who he is and how he got here. Through his eyes, we witness Afghanistan's villages and towns, mountains and plains. Dust and everything, the young lawyer inhaled it. It smelled like new beginnings, rebirth, and optimism. He'd envisioned himself going along alleys. He works diligently, despite the obstacles placed in his path. To discover why a seemingly average woman, a caring mother who is well-liked by neighbors, would suddenly take a hatchet to her husband's head. That is assuming she did commit the crime for which she is convicted. As Yusuf slowly begins to learn the truth, his struggles become a synecdoche for the struggles Afghan women face on a daily basis. Their voices silenced against the injustice that the legal system, the country, and men rain down upon them. Like Yusuf, reader also aspires for a brighter future for Afghanistan while reading this story. As a result, the jail serves as a mirror. It symbolizes the Afghani woman, which is one of the novel's main themes, violence against women. Women have no influence over their lives and destiny in this book, like in real Afghani society. The bond between mothers and sons, between wives and husbands, is weak and often violent. This is how Ziba thinks about it. No spell could alter the reality of a woman's value. A woman was only as good as the tears that flowed on her wedding night, the ounces she bled with the phases of the moon, and the little stream she poured out when she gave birth to her husband's kids. Some women were sentenced to have their blood vessels drained in order to apologize for their crimes or the faults of others. In a nutshell, the book isn't all doom and gloom, and the reader will discover why as he or she continues to read. In Ziba's journey, as well as the stories of all the characters, there is a lot to learn and acquire. To fully understand the characters in this work, all one has to know is these words: sometimes there's no way to live if you don't lose your mind. To put it simply, A House Without Windows, Afghan-American Nadia Hashimi's third fiction project, is about many kinds of craziness, that of mankind in general, and of people in particular, and how one must navigate inside those regions of insanity. This way, the book doesn't really care whether Ziba was the murderer or not, since her guilt or innocence is irrelevant. People think she did it because she is a woman, and that is all that counts. Ziba's story becomes a metaphor for every case. every woman facing punishment for an act she did not do or one she committed as a last option. A fact ironically noted by people in a nation where a woman's testimony has half the weight of a man's is, the reasons are lost, forgotten, or just don't matter. This may explain why the book begins with barely disguised hints that enable educated readers to swiftly deduce the truth about that tragic day. In fact, when the truth is exposed, the reader is not surprised and does not experience any shock. The difficulties that lead up to the murder, as well as the hurdles that arise thereafter, are much more important to the plot than the act itself. Patriarchy, honor, and a judicial system that is trying to rectify its flaws but can't quite accomplish it in a nation engulfed in oppression. This book is a political statement on Afghanistan's culture and judicial system, not a murder mystery. In that regard, the book succeeds in its objective and should not be dismissed as simple fiction. It is much more compelling than a single guilty woman's tale. Hashimi's work encourages readers to be like Yusuf and fight even if the improvements we make are just ripples in the water. A Dari song is repeated over and over. Tonight, you will listen to the sorrows of my soul, though tomorrow, you will forget all that has been told. This is undoubtedly the novel's most important goal. Remember what you've read after you've finished it. Take an action. I would like to be your friend, and in return I need your suggestions and feedback. If you liked this review, please spread the word. If you don't like it, share it with us in comments section. Ciao, ciao, brown cow.